Texas, shortly after the Civil War, a land of wide horizons and silent dangers. Here, on the treacherous banks of the Pecos River, nature seems at peace, with cattle heading down the slope, thirsty for fresh water. But the desert's silence is deceiving, friend. Where there are cattle and honorable men working hard under the scorching sun, the shadow of greed and hatred also lurks, waiting for the right moment to strike. The cowboys drive the herd with the skill of men born in the saddle. The foreman, Leo McKinney, wants to keep the cattle together, dreaming of the journey's end. But from high up in the rocks, cruel eyes are watching. They ain't coyotes, nor common rustlers interested in meat or hide. It's a gang armed to the teeth, descending the slope like an avalanche of lead about to crash down on innocent heads. McKinney, an old fox from his ranger days, feels the hair on his neck stand up before he even sees their faces. He knows cowboys don't dress in such fancy duds, nor carry that look of death. On the other side, the gang leader smiles, a grin made of scars and ancient malice. He didn't come to parley for passage. He came to collect a blood debt that time couldn't wash away. The meeting by the river freezes the blood. McKinney tries diplomacy, but when the man in front of him lifts his face, the past hits like a punch to the gut. It's Juan Gonzales, the legendary bandit, and in his hands, the cursed shine that gave him his nickname, solid gold revolvers. Leo's shock lasts only a second, the exact time it takes for the devil to pull the trigger. The thunder of gunshots shatters the quiet afternoon. Bang! White smoke rises as the Golden Revolvers spit fire without mercy. McKinney and his men are caught flat-footed, falling into the shallow waters before they can even draw their irons. It ain't a fight, it's a cold, brutal execution. Gonzales's hate strikes fast as a rattlesnake. Panic takes over. The herd stampedes, trampling any hope of survival. The few cowboys trying to flee are hunted down like jackrabbits in the open field. Gonzales's gang leaves no witnesses, shooting them in the back, laughing as they dye the Pecos River red. The carnage is total, driven only by the sadistic pleasure of vengeance. The sun sets, leaving the sky the color of a purple bruise over the desert. The buzzards, the undertakers of the West, are already circling above. But the sound of hurried hooves announces the arrival of the law. Tex Willer and Kit Carson appear on the hill, wearing the hard expressions of men who've seen the worst of humanity. "We're too late," says the ranger, but his eyes promise that justice won't be far behind. Tex's colts speak loud, scaring off the birds of prey descending for their grisly feast. The smell of death hangs heavy in the air. Amidst the carcasses of steers and men, the two partners walk in respectful silence, reading the tracks of tragedy. They know this wasn't done by a wild beast, but by something far worse: men without souls. Walking among the bodies, fury grows in Tex's chest. They spared no one. It was a calculated massacre, done to shock, to send a message. Kit Carson, with his old scout's experience, notes the pattern of violence. "Neither animals nor men," he grumbles. The cruelty stamped on those bullets has a signature they hoped never to see again. And then, the horror gets a familiar face. Hanging from a dry tree like a profane warning is Leo McKinney. Their old friend and ex-ranger was left to suffer, tortured while life drained away, drop by drop. But a Texan's heart is tough. He's still breathing. Tex cuts the rope urgently, cradling his fallen comrade in the cold mud. In Tex's arms, Leo spends his last strength. The pain is immense, but the need to speak is greater. He looks at his friends with the glazed eyes of someone already seeing the other side. "It was him," the dying man whispers. The revelation hangs in the air like a death sentence. The past they buried has come back to haunt the present. It wasn't a robbery. It was a hunt. Leo reveals that Drew Randall and Quentin Stowe, other veterans, have already been wiped out. The killer is clearing the list. "Golden guns," he says, before departing for the Great Plains in the sky. Tex and Carson exchange a heavy look. Juan Gonzales, the demon of the Mexican War, is alive. Night falls, and 3 wooden crosses mark the final resting place of Leo and his men. Under the starlight, Tex and Carson make a silent oath. Leo's dream of a ranch and peace is over, but the Ranger's mission has just begun. "Vengeance," says Carson, and Tex agrees. They'll ride to hell and back if they have to settle this score. As they follow the trail, memory travels 20 years back in time. They discuss how it's possible that Gonzales is alive. That man wasn't a common bandit. He was a nightmare of the war with Mexico, a guerrilla who turned soldiers into trophies. Tex tightens his grip on the reins, remembering the day they gave the monster the nickname Golden Guns. The mind goes back to 1846. The American army advanced through hostile terrain, confident in the strength of numbers. Young soldiers marched under the sun, dreaming of battle glory, unaware that the hills had eyes. War ain't fought just with cannons and flags, but with cowardly ambushes in rocky gorges. Suddenly, all hell breaks loose. Bang, bang! Gonzales's gang descends on the rear guard like hungry locusts. There is no honor, just the chaos of sabers and gunpowder. Soldiers fall without understanding where the fire is coming from. Through the smoke, he appears, laughing like a demon, wielding the stolen weapons of a dead officer, weapons that shine like cursed gold. Gonzales wasn't satisfied with just killing. He wanted terror. He hung bodies from trees along the trails, macabre decorations to break the American troops' morale. His golden revolvers became a symbol of fear. No one could stop him, until the commanders decided to call in the experts on dealing with the devil, the Texas Rangers. Those were times of youth and hot blood. Tex, Carson, McKinney, Randall, and Steele. Los Diablos Tejanos, as the Mexicans called them. They didn't fight for maps. They fought for justice. In a furious charge, they attacked Gonzales's lair, tearing through enemy lines with the ferocity only Rangers possess. It was lead against lead, courage against madness. The noose tightened. Gang destroyed, Gonzales cornered against the abyss. He tried to fight, tried to run, but he was surrounded by the men he hated most, young, relentless, and victorious. It looked like the end of the line for Golden Guns. The war was ending, and the rope seemed the only certain destiny for a butcher like him. But the devil looks after his own. With the gallows already prepared, Gonzales used his captor's arrogance against them. He mocked justice, seizing the distraction for a final act of rebellion. He wouldn't accept the rope. If he was going to die, it would be on his own terms. In the blink of an eye, he grabbed a gun. Bang! Point-blank shot, and Gonzales threw himself into the void. His body plummeted down the cliff, plunging into the churning river waters. A suicidal leap to cheat the hangman. The Rangers looked down from above, seeing only foam and blood. Bullets rained into the water, but the river kept its secret. Everyone believed he was dead. No one could survive that fall, those waters. But they were wrong. Hate served as a life vest. And now, 2 decades later, the corpse has crawled out of its watery grave to kill the men who watched him fall. Back in the present, the dust of the road brings urgency. Gonzales is following a list. McKinney is dead. Randall and Stowe, too. Few are left from that old outfit. Tex pulls out the mental map. The next target is Drew Randall, who lives near San Marcos. They need to get there before the shadow of death knocks on his door. But death rides fast. Upon reaching Randall's ranch, they find only smoking ruins and the weeping of a widow and her son. Too late. Again. Randall was executed, his home burned. But the woman, between sobs, gives the clue. A man with golden guns. And more importantly, someone stayed behind, watching. Tex has the eyes of an eagle. He spots movement on the ridge of the hill. A spy, left behind to savor the misery. The ranger doesn't hesitate, spurs to the horse, lasso in hand. The fugitive tries to escape, but Tex Willer's rope is long and true. Zwing! The bandit is yanked from the saddle and dragged through the Texas dust. The spy is tough, but he's facing legends. He recognizes Kit Carson, and fear shows through. He tries to lie, tries to stall, but Tex ain't playing games. A well-placed punch loosens any scoundrel's tongue. They need to know where Gonzales is hiding and who the next victim is. And they're going to find out now. The easy way or the hard way. With the barrel of a Colt pressed against his nose and Tex's boot on his chest, the bandit sings like a canary. The hideout is in a nearby canyon, and worse, they already have another Ranger prisoner. Gary Steele is in Gonzales' hands at this very moment. There's no time to lose. A friend's life is hanging by a thread, literally. At the hideout, the scene is a nightmare. Gary Steele, stripped and bound, suffers under the sun and Gonzales' blade. The villain, fat and aged but still lethal, savors his vengeance. He tells his men how he dreamed of this moment, how every scream of pain is music to his ears. He believes he's untouchable in his kingdom of stones. Gonzales' cruelty knows no bounds. He toys with the knife, taunting Steele, reminiscing about the old days. He wants to break the Ranger's spirit before breaking his body. Carson is next, he threatens, unaware that Carson himself is just yards away, finger on the trigger and heart full of cold fury. Gonzales flaunts his golden revolvers, bragging, listing the dead like conquests. He feels like a god of vengeance. But fate likes to play tricks on the arrogant. Just as he prepares the final blow, a sound cuts through the air, sweeter than any song. The sound of a Winchester rifle being cocked in the hands of a lawman. Bang, bang! The camp turns into hell. Tex and Carson attack with the fury of a gale. Bandits drop before they know what hit them. The surprise is total. Where there was laughter and torture, now there's screaming and gunpowder. The Rangers advance, blasting a path toward their captive comrade. It's lead flying everywhere. Tex shoots with surgical precision, dropping one bandit after another. Carson covers the flank, his revolvers singing the song of death. Gonzales, a coward like every tyrant when confronted, abandons his men and runs. He knows that against Tex Willer, his golden guns ain't worth a damn. The bandits' resistance crumbles. Those who don't run kiss the dirt. Tex cuts Gary Steele's buns in the middle of the firefight. "Think it's easy, you scum?" the Ranger shouts, firing at the last holdouts. The dust settles, revealing the battle's toll. Justice prevailed, but the leader got away. Steele is wounded but alive. While they tend to his injuries, worry returns. Gonzales fled, and there's still one name left on his cursed list. "Mike Romney," says Steele. The old sergeant of that platoon, now living at an isolated ferry post on the Rio Grande. If Gonzales gets there first, it'll be the end of another veteran. The ride is brutal. Horses foaming, sun straight overhead. Tex and Carson know every second counts. Gonzales is wounded, desperate, and dangerous as a cornered animal. He'll try to close his circle of blood before vanishing into Mexico. The fate of the Romney family depends on the Rangers' speed. The ferry post seems quiet. An American flag flutters in the wind, and there is Mike Romney, in a wheelchair, fishing peacefully. The scene is too idyllic. Carson shouts, relieved to see his friend alive. But Tex frowns. His warrior instincts warn that something is wrong. The silence is too thick. The greetings are warm, hands shaken, smiles of old war buddies. Mike seems happy to see his friends, talking about the Battle of Palo Alto and the old times. Everything seems normal, but Tex watches the details. There's no one else in sight. Where is Mike's family? Where are the workers? They go into the house for coffee. The conversation flows, but the air is heavy. Mike talks business about the ferry. Suddenly, Tex notices the cold sweat on the veteran's forehead, the nervous glance at the back door. It's too late to back out. The door bursts open with a crash, and gun barrels emerge from the shadows. It was a trap. Gonzales was already there. Bang, bang, bang. The gunfight explodes inside the tiny cabin. Tex shoves Mike out of the line of fire, drawing his Colt in a split second. Wood splinters fly, smoke fills the room. Carson fires into the shadows. The old enemy was waiting, using the friend as bait. Chaos spills onto the porch. Gonzales appears, but he ain't alone. He's using Mike's wife and daughter as human shields. The coward knows Tex won't risk innocent lives. He laughs, insane, gun pointed at the child's head. "He betrayed us," Tex shouts, realizing Mike was forced to collaborate to save his family. The situation is critical. One wrong move and the girl dies. But Tex Willer doesn't miss. Seizing a millisecond where Gonzales is distracted by the gunfire, the Ranger fires. Not to kill, but to create an opening. The bullet whizzes by, Gonzales flinches, and the hostage breaks free. Now it's hunter against hunted. Gonzales, wounded and cornered, runs for the pier. He drags his heavy carcass, bleeding, shouting curses. His mind, broken by years of hate and now by fear, starts to fail. He sees enemies where there are none, hears the voices of the dead. He runs toward the water, his old refuge, but this time the river promises no salvation. At the end of the dock, madness takes over. Gonzales turns and sees not just Tex and Carson, but the ghosts of everyone he killed. He sees his own demons rising from the water to come get him. "My dream," he stammers, raising the trembling Golden Revolvers for the final duel. Tex and Carson advance, relentless as fate. Bang, bang! The Rangers' Colts sound like a judge's gavel delivering the sentence. Gonzales fires wildly, blinded by panic. The bullets of justice hit him square on, throwing him backward. The impact is brutal. The man who lived by the gun meets his end in the roar of thunder. The body hits the water with a dull thud. The weight of the gold in his hands and the weight of sin on his soul pull him down. Bubbles rise red and then vanish. The Rio Grande, which once gave him back to life, now collects the final price. The man with the golden guns sinks into the dark mud, never to return. On the bank, silence returns. The family embraces, safe. Mike weeps, forgiven by his friends. Tex and Carson look at the calm river. The legend is over. The cursed gold rests at the bottom, where greed can't hurt anyone anymore. "Hard to die," says Carson. "Poisonous to the end," replies Tex. They adjust their hats. The job is done. It's time to ride toward the next horizon. The past never dies in Texas.